All right. So this one, I am going to show the difference that I have found, or from the rigs that I've seen between Carolina and Texas Neds. So these are the differences that I have seen most often between what people call, the rig that they're using. Like, say, if a guy from Louisiana is like, "Oh, this is like my Carolina rig," you know, or "This is my Texas rig." So everybody has different variations of this, and it's hard to keep it straight. But the gist of the situation is this. All right. So differences in Texas and Carolina. Okay, so we got mono here. I went ahead and tied a worm hook on using my Palomar. So, this would be my main line going up to the fishing pole. And with a Texas rig, what you would have is at the hook, next on the line, about right above the hook, will be one bead. Then you would have a slide weight. Then you would have another bead. There's people use different combinations of these within this line, and different size weights, different size beads. Some of them may use like a T-knot, bobber stop knot, something, like something like that. So we got this set up on the line, and then so here's where the difference that I've found between the Texas and the Carolina is. So with the Texas rig, this sliding portion would be able to slide all the way down to the hook. We would have a short amount of however long you want your lead to be, and you would have a swivel in place right there, so that it would basically be a leader that you could tie these up before you left the house, roll them up, put them in your tackle bag, box, whatever you got. Then this piece will be able to slide all the way up to the swivel and then stop. And then this swivel, and you would tie this to your main line from your pole. All right, so that would be a Texas rig. At least in my experience, the things that I've seen, that is the Texas rig. So with that, there's different things you can do. You can fix these beads and weights at any position on this lead that you want. You can stake it down. I've found toothpicks work really well. They have, gear stakes you can buy at the outdoor stores, Walmart, whatever, and they're like a soft neoprene rubber type material. It would go through the hole that like the bead or your weight is on, and with your line already through it, and you would just basically take that and put that in there, clip the end off of it. Well, now that's fixed. It can't slide up and down anymore, so it's going to stop your gear from going all the way down. Then you have this end with your bait and your hook. So that would be Texas. Now here is the Carolina. All right, so same setup, same hook, tied to the end of the line. Then with nothing between here and a swivel. Swivel would be tied in place here, above a little ways above the hook. So you would have basically a leader with a hook tied to a swivel. Then this setup would go above the swivel on your main line. So this would be allowed to slide up and down your main line to your pole. That is Carolina. I don't know, I may be getting them mixed up, maybe the other way. But Carolina is one way, Texas is the other one. And you use the same method as you would use fishing with a Ned's rig. It's basically called a finesse style. Slow, methodical, rhythmic movement. You're simulating, feeding fish, injured fish, feeding worms, feeding grubs, things like that. And you can speed that up, slow it down, whatever the situation calls for. So that is the differences that I've seen in the Carolina, the Texas, and the Neds. Same fishing style, same, tactics, different rigs. Very slight differences in the action under the water. You can simulate different things. So experiment with it, man. Try it out, see what you like. I personally don't like the Carolina and the Texas rig. Not for bass fishing anyway. I've found the Carolina is pretty effective for bottom fishing, because then you can, you have your lead with the swivel on it, and you got your hook at one end, then you got your beads and your weight on the main line, and you can do things like use Corkies or you know, selective buoyancy baits. So these weights would sit on the bottom, and this may float up a little bit. So you know, could use them for trout. I found them effective for catfish in rivers. Generally, when the river's rising, this is my setup for bottom fishing. But you know, try everything, man. You know, I'm even when I learn new rigs, I'm open to trying it. So you know, you may find something that you are extremely comfortable with that you didn't even know you could do. And then also, I told you we'd go over some spinner baits. So this is a smaller spinner bait. You know, they come in you know, different sizes. You know, up to big ones, even ones that are a little bit smaller than this. So basically, the way that these work is, see the little hole right there? That's where your main line goes through. So I had discussed with you before about how generally whenever I bass fish, I have a minimum of 2 setups with me. You know, I'll always have a bait caster with me, no matter what type of fishing I'm doing. I keep one, even if it's in my bag, you know, broken down or whatever. I keep a bait caster. Now, depending on the gear ratio of your bait caster and the size of the spool, it may be hard to maintain the proper speed on these with that. So this is generally, you know, setups like spinners like this or topwater buzz baits like this. I will generally use my spinning caster because the crank is bigger, the gear ratio is different. It's easier to maintain the speed that I want with minimal effort. You know, with a bait caster, you maybe, you know, spinning really fast to get the buzz, you know, to get the action that you want to get out of these. So, you know, and you would use, you know, Palomar, probably be the most effective one on there. You know, some people will even tie a barrel swivel on the end of their line and put like a wedding clasp on there. You know, the little, like a key ring. I don't like to do that because it tends to make the spinner bait spin in the water like that, and then you get things like line twists and stuff, and it'll cause problems. So, but try it out, man. See what you think.